This is a book review article about the history of American higher education, learning, and culture from the founding of World War II. So, this is just an article discussing a book that someone wrote, but it kind of gives you a really good chronological effect of how the American higher education came into play. You'll notice it talks about the very beginning is Harvard College in 1636, and you see other universities created in America. So you may want to check this book out. That's up to you. I'm sure you can check it out if you want to, but many of us don't have time to read 584 pages within a weekend. But this just gives you kind of a book review of it. It starts with Harvard, and then it keeps going. It talks about the first colleges founded. The first century of the American college was a vignette on Harvard College that draws heavily on two of Samuel Eliot Morrison's classic work, and it talks about how the book deals with that. It talks about the founding of Yale College, 1701, William and Mary in 1693, the American model of a strong president under the authority of external governing board with a relatively weak faculty. I saw that section, and I was like, wow, bottom of the paragraph, that the American model of colleges actually really hasn't changed over a long period of time, that they adopted this idea of a very strong college president with a board of regents and very weak faculty. And I thought, man, that's kind of weird. Hopefully we're not weak nowadays, but kind of a little aspect of that. You'll notice that they mention once again in this paragraph the Great Awakening. So you see that recurring throughout other articles as well, the Great Awakening. So you may want to research that. The chapter 2 in this book is about colonial colleges. See the Great Awakening right here. The American Revolution, the Republican universities. In the New Republic, colleges were deemed important mechanisms for reproducing the natural aristocrats of learning and talent. So we wanted to keep that middle class, that upper class there. The 13 colonies were founded during the New Republic era. 4 public state colleges, 8 religiously affiliated private. So this is where you want to see some of the very first public state colleges that were created. But with that, we see this paragraph which says that there's always been this need for money. That it says in a quote, the great majority of our colleges have very inadequate funds. So we see this over and over and over again throughout higher education, the need for more money. Geiger profiles the low state of the colleges between 1800. Approximately 1% of the white males attended college in the pre-revolutionary period. So from 1800 to the 1820s, we see college kind of being pushed off to the back burner. Yes, Harvard and Yale were still producing their elites, but college kind of stops. And of course, what happens then is the great second awakening that occurs. You see this always occurring. So between 1815 and 1840, the number of colleges grew from 28 to 80, and the number of students rose from 2,000 to 8,000. So really a 4-time increase for 400%. So we have Harvard being created, then we start having state colleges being created, and then from 1810 to 1820, we see just people not really going to college, and then between 1815 and 1840, we start seeing state colleges really emerging. West Point becomes a major renaissance for colleges, and of course Virginia does as well. Then it starts talking about the Yale report. We need more better colleges. Look at this quote right here. The decision unleashed an era of denominational college founding by making clear that no exclusive or monopolistic relationship necessarily existed between a college corporation and the state that had chartered it. And that once chartered a college, last sentence, very important. Once a college was chartered, then he could do whatever he wanted to, and it's beyond the control of the state. So that's really amazing. So we start seeing that colleges, once they got enough money, they could do as they wish. We start seeing the growth of private funding for colleges. And Geiger presents late and antebellum higher education in terms of regional divergence. That chapter 6 it talks about in the book begins describing the advent of moral suasions in place of strict discipline. Let's just scroll down through here. I circled this section right here. The Civil War brought major changes. The author of the book highlights many of those changes in his land-grant colleges. He characterizes the beginnings of high schools, normal schools, female colleges, multi-purpose colleges, and schools of science in terms of the organizations being pre-modern institutions. He explains how the war between the states, the Civil War, decimated higher education in the South. Decimated it, but had relatively little impact on the enterprise of the North. So I'm going to take that section right there and just discuss the idea that the South could have won the Civil War. Think about that. Now, whether they could have won or could have not have won, that's up to you to make that interpretation. But think about just this one institution that for 4 years of Civil War, higher education in the South was pretty much destroyed. But in the North, it was still going without missing any beat. That really shows you the effect of the war on the North and the effect of the war on the South. There's all other kind of books as well that the North was still doing other things. They still had their industry, and the South was basically destroyed. So just higher education, just that one institute, never really missed a beat in colleges in the North. The agriculture colleges and the A&Ms and the liberal art colleges all started emerging. The university, in any worth sense of the term, must grow from seed. I sectioned this out, and I was really impressed with this one. The creation of the American universities. He opens a chapter by quoting Charles Eliot from an 1869 essay in which he said, "Any university at any worth must grow from a seed. It cannot be just transplanted from England or Germany." And I saw that, and I circled that, and I thought, man, that's just really amazing. So let's think about just that quote in pretty much life altogether. Let's say we want to do an online university. Let's just copy the University of Phoenix. That's not a good idea. Let's do a PhD program. Well, let's just copy the University of Vanderbilt. That's not a good idea. If you really want to have a good business, a good education model, or a good anything, you really need to create it from a seed, not just copy someone else's. And that quote, I circled, I was like, man, that's really good. So I see a lot of universities, I see a lot of businesses, they fail to comprehend that. Hey, let's just open up a gas station. Everyone else is a gas station. You really want to open up something that starts as the best example I can give is a restaurant. Let's just open up a restaurant. Well, I know how to cook. What you really want to open up is a catering business first. Open up as a seed. Have a catering business that people go, wow, this person's good. They cook out of their kitchen. They're good. And then you start growing that business. That's the whole point of it. That's what Dave Ramsey always argues about growing something from a seed, and then you have a business going. So the whole idea of that same thing. Same thing with higher education. Same thing with a college. You need to start it as what does our little society need here, and then go from there. As I continued to read, and I made notes as I read, I saw that John D. Rockefeller becomes a major component of education. He starts really giving huge amounts of money. Geiger's discussion of the great American universities emphasized the disagreement between scholars such as Slauson and Vesey and himself over ranking the top universities, and notes that the early rankings quickly led top universities to form the American Associated Universities. So when money starts really pouring in, universities start bringing themselves together and to have this idea that they're going to do something important and they need to all rank themselves. Then we start having, take this paragraph out. Yes, that the degree was important and that PhDs were the hallmarks of the academic revolution. In case you don't know what a PhD is, I'm sure you do. You have your undergrad, you have your master's, and then you have your PhD. So the PhD was always this idea that once you received the PhD, you were then self-educated. You know how to go out in the real world, you know how to educate yourself, and you can teach people that. That was always the hallmark of every education back in the day. You'd always get your doctorate. You'd have your degree and you'd be a professor. Well, now, with the growth of universities and the growth of money post-Civil War, we start seeing the birth of the undergraduate experience. Yes, the PhD is very important, but what about football, fraternities, this idea of having fun while you go to college, becoming a person of character? Yeah. So we start seeing the development of the undergraduate experience. Yes, I thought that was kind of cool. And of course, today, universities have so many things they have to advertise for. They have to do football, athletics, fraternity, degrees. So look at a commercial from a university, and you'll see that all the different elements that they have. They're really pushing a lot of things. Medicine always is the forefront. They're leading the way with their colleges. The next page talks about women education. It talks about the ramifications of 100% Americanism and such as that. We start seeing vo-tech colleges emerge, vocational. We start seeing community colleges, which are growing as a seed, obviously. Down here on the next, right here, I made sure I underlined this right here. By the 1930s, pressures from the Great Depression forced universities to operate more efficiently and effectively with special emphasis on faculty productivity. So we start seeing away from research, we start seeing more you need to get to work. In the late 30s, we start seeing an increased enrollment, especially with the New Deal emerging. And then we start seeing this idea of liberal education. You may need to definitely Google that. So this is just a really good article, and it follows you. It talks about a book that you probably won't read because it's 500 pages, but it talks you about, and it follows you through the elements of education and how education has developed. So I just want to give you an idea. So in all of our 3 lectures, we've looked at colonialism and how that spread the Puritans, looked at African American education, gave an overview of that, and then we also looked at the birth of American education and higher education. So that was the whole purpose of this first week, is I wanted to walk everyone through just kind of the beginning of education in America. And then, of course, next time, what we look at, we're going to look at the idea of the birth of social studies education in America and where that comes from, and then all of a sudden all these special interests. So you kind of see the method behind the madness. I want to look at education, show you how that functioned and all the different parties, and now I'm going to put an overlay of social studies education and look at that. That'll be next week, and we'll have fun with that. So right now, just to end this lecture, is you've read 3 articles, 3 really good articles, and I've given you 3 little lectures. So right now, on Friday, I'll drop the assignments and the quizzes. Anything that'll be due on Sunday. So I'll drop all that for you on Friday. So right now, from Wednesday to Friday, just enjoy the lectures. Take notes if you have to, and make sure you are ready for any quiz or assignment that may emerge. Thank you very much.